Hey, what's up, you guys? It's Elmer Brown Enriquez, your host of Artistic Visions, the show where we like to go in-depth with young artists at OCAD, talk about their art, what they like to talk about in their art, and what they would like to talk about in their art. Today's episode, I have a very special guest for the season finale episode, my day one best friend, Daren Souvannavong. No bias here, but welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on. Tell me, who are you and what kind of art do you usually make?
Daren is the name. I'm a lens-based artist. I really like working with experimental photography and alternative kind of printing processes, using gelatin to print on kind of non-porous materials and making photographic objects.
Yeah, and let's go into your first series of objects that you've been working with, and this is kind of, I guess, the leaf series, or
yeah.
what would you call it?
I titled it "Where We Fit." So I printed on leaves. I cyanotyped on leaves, banana leaves. Kind of a callback to my Laotian heritage, and I used archival images of my parents, my family, kind of speaking about like our culture and like how we changed, or more specifically, like my parents had to change like their way of living and like trying to fit into Canadian culture when they immigrated here.
And it's insane to see these photos, especially on this object itself, the banana leaves, because it kind of gives that like a bit of that fragmented like look into the archival photos, but you can like make out, like, especially this specific image where we just saw it, but the family photo of I assume is you, your siblings, and your parents. You know, it's like I can picture the family. You know, I see it, and I can almost like visualize like what kind of like, you know, point that they were in, and it's, you can see it's like an older photo, so it does have like that old like nostalgia aspect to it that really adds on. Not to mention also the color that kind of comes off with it. I really enjoyed like that little blue tint. Was that like just a part of the process?
It's just the cyanotype.
Oh yeah,
itself.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, the printing this, it was pretty difficult. It took me almost 4 months to figure out.
Wow. Yeah.
Just because like it takes, I figured out like it takes about like 4 days just to print one image on one leaf, because it takes a lot of prep and like putting it in like the contact printer to print it. The leaf is still like brittle. So you were speaking about like the fragmenting of it, and that's just like a part of the process itself, and it definitely adds to what I'm speaking about. I wouldn't say it's like a happy accident. It was just a happy happening, because really like it was gonna happen anyway.
Yeah.
It was a direct choice to use like the leaf too, so it's
Yeah. And to see it like kind of like the texture kind of like shriveled up, it gives more of that like kind of like a wrinkled photo kind of feel. So I really do like what you did with the specific leaf here, and yeah, like the colors that come off with it, like with the cyanotype, it's like, okay, yeah, I understand the blue, but it adds on like, because there is like a little bit of a natural kind of tint on it. Like I don't know what it is, but there's like just a sense of like a withering away. Like there's almost like a yellowing, I guess, with it, right? So it kind of reminds me of like the consoles that have like yellowing, and you know, you try to clean that shit off, but like it reminds me of like that. Like it's like one of those photos that you take out and you're like, oh yeah, it's like this is from that time in our past, and like that was a great time, like that we remember. I was actually kind of wondering, where did you exactly get the archival photos? Was that like family photos maybe your parents have taken just over the time?
Yeah. They were just kind of in a cabinet in my parents' home, and I just took a bunch of them, or like I sifted through them, but I took basically most of them just to choose from. Yeah, it was really interesting to see like images of myself as like a child, and like of my parents at a time where like I wasn't really sentient, I guess. wasn't thinking, wasn't remembering things.
Yeah, you're a toddler. You're still like a child at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, you know, getting to see yourself in more of an archival moment, right? Like that must be kind of a little bit surreal, and you know, you're working in a medium that you mess with that kind of like effect. So it's cool to see what you did here, and it kind of like represents maybe how you see these images. Maybe not like fully like that, but like it's shriveled up. But like that like that fragmentation that we were talking about, like like
Yeah, it's not like a memory to me. It's more a memory to my parents, but it's just like a moment that I experienced, but I don't know that I experienced, I guess.
Yeah, that you are conscious to know that you had lived through that. In terms of the project that you showed here, I really enjoyed what you did with the archival images. I am really interested into seeing what you did with the photography you've done.
Yeah.
Because you have also been printing those onto other objects.
Yep.
So what is the next project you're showing us here today?
This project, I've titled it Porcelain and Ceramic because I printed on porcelain and ceramic tiles. Not cyanotype this time, but Van Dyke. Very similar process, just different tones. Here I use gelatin to adhere to like the more flat surface. Stuff that like, because the chemistry doesn't seep in, it sits on top. Here I'm really exploring the photographic object and how the material of the photograph kind of puts the image into a different context. And so I decided to use kind of images of like random objects and things. I typically shoot garbage, but here I didn't decide mainly garbage, but
like dumpster, like
dumpster,
actuals, like not garbage is like
not like
my stuff is garbage. Like you like actually went out and took pictures of dumpsters, right? Like yes.
Yeah.
Just so that people don't, if they get it confused. But what you're saying.
But here I'm shooting like kind of sceneries of like neglected objects and neglected moments, and printing them on these objects which you typically walk over, and like you kind of walk over these moments in your memories as well, like they get trampled over. And the way I installed them, since I'm using or printing on an object, I can take them off of the wall and lay them nearly on the ground. So I kind of force the audience to look down upon them in like kind of an act of irony, because you do look down upon like the neglected, but I take away the ability to be able to walk over them.
My first thing I was gonna mention was how you exhibited it that one time at that show that happened like about 2 months ago, maybe.
It's December.
December. That's right. And that show, when you had it all just placed out, because you had kind of multiple of the same images and different tiles, but it wasn't like a pattern, right? Like it wasn't like a checkerboard.
No.
Or it was like this was just accompanying these other images over here, and while also doing accompanying other images, and to look through the sea, and it's like almost like it was like a floor, like this is bad to say. I was tempted to walk on it for a sec, but they're worked on tiles, like they're probably really delicate at this point. Just to see those images, like in like how they were printed out and like the colors that came with it, because like it is Van Dyke and it gives that like really rustic brown texture. But there's moments where we have like the sink, and I really love how like the white shines on it and has like a little bit of the photo grain, but also a little bit of like the actual like porcelain like tile texture that also comes through.
Yeah. There's a difference in like tonality between like the ceramic and the porcelain. So the porcelain is the darker tile, and the ceramic is the lighter tile, like the one with the sink.
Yeah.
So I use that to my advantage to kind of degrade the image even more, and I use like multiples of the image because like I want to kind of exemplify or demonstrate like multiple like happenings of like neglect, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I see it more with the fan, where I really like the texture of like how I feel like there's kind of a missing, but there's also, I feel like there's a little bit of an after image of it. I'm not sure if that's what you're more talking about it there.
Yeah, that's where like some of the gelatin just doesn't adhere as much.
Yeah.
And so I get like this kind of almost fragmented, I guess.
Yeah.
Image.
It almost looks like there's like pieces of it ripped out. Like
Yeah.
And I just love the color of that fan piece as well. Like there's like that rustic brown, but there's also like that heavy blue that kind of is around the light, and it almost like feels like its own room. Like I don't know how those colors complementing each other, but it feels like that is like a little window into a room that has like, you know, maybe a broken fan. But just seeing how these images have come out, because this isn't even all the images, this is just only a few. This is a taste.
Yeah.
Right?
I think at this point I printed over 100
Wow.
images. Yeah.
And most of them trial and error, right? Like
yeah. This process took me faster than the leaves. It took me about a month to figure out how to use gelatin. But still.
But I mean, like compared to the leaves, like, because you were waiting what, 5 weeks? You said, or no?
Like 5 days.
5 days. Sorry, yeah. 5 days for one, which is still like you're not only just printing the one, you're also trying to you know, mess with them. So like to hear about this process that you've kind of taken, and it's an interesting process that we've seen in just normal photography, but seeing that pasted onto other objects and like tiles specifically and the leaf are really interesting textures that, you know, I think kind of help us kind of reimagine like how photography can be seen and like how it can be even like texturized. Like we keep talking about this specific paper, this, you know, we gotta get the A5 grade paper. Like then no. But like, you know, you can do a lot with just cyanotype and Van Dyke. Right?
Yeah. I really like to take images off of the wall. I feel like photography and the photograph can be so much more than just like ink on paper pasted onto a wall. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it can live and breathe in a 3D like space.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. Yeah, I absolutely love these pieces, Daren. These are insane works.
Thank you.
I'm hoping this is gonna come out before GradX. It really should. But if it is, go check out Daren's work at GradX. We don't know the rooms yet, because this is filmed way before. But, please check out the photography program. That's where you are primarily working in.
Yep.
So check out the photography program. You'll probably see Daren's works up there. Now, next question I want to ask you is, what kind of messages have you kind of talked about within your works?
I feel like a lot of my work doesn't really have a strong message. Just because I like to take images of objects and like quote unquote garbage. Mm-hmm. In exploring that, I found like they're kind of, to me at least, these non-sentient things can be considered kind of alive in their own like sense, in their own environment. So when I shoot them, I kind of think of them as portraits of these things. Yeah, but that's like the gist of what I photograph. Mm-hmm. But for the leaves, that's one of the projects where I really thought of like what message I wanted to express, and like talking about kind of changing culture and how to fit in when environment changes. Mm-hmm. The
adaptation that comes through with it. Yeah, because, you know, being someone who you've met up with after class and we've just like talked about like working on stuff, like, you know, it is funny like hearing all our conversation is like, what are you working on? And, you know, you're just I'm going out taking photos, you know. Like I do feel like there was a moment where you did see photos as like not more of an aesthetic thing, but like, you know, you took photos because it was an enjoyment and it was invigorating to see what you could do in the frame. But like now you're working outside of the frame, quite, you know, literally, and, you know, creating these new works that are, you know, at least with the Leaf project, you know, you are talking a little bit more about like your personal experiences. And I feel like you've kind of like shied away. Not that, you know, that's an issue for people, you know, you might not necessarily know what to say, right? But like seeing you talk about, you know, your culture and and seeing what you do within that art in like in a new form, it's really, and it's awesome to see like what you're you're capable of doing, and seeing that growth after all these years, really.
Yeah.
And I'm actually kind of intrigued because this might be a little getting ahead because you're just only starting to talk about messages. But what messages would you like to maybe try and touch on in the future?
Oh man, I don't know. I feel like that's definitely something that's just gonna come in the future. Like, there's no really knowing like what I'm gonna be doing later. I really only know what I'm doing now, but I do hope to explore like the idea of the photographic object even more, kind of creating my own kind of transparent mediums to print on. That way I'm like fully in like the production phase of the image.
Yeah, I definitely am intrigued to see what other objects you might mess around with and try and print your photos in for those ones. I do want to move on to my next question. However, who are some of the inspirations in the art world that maybe have inspired, maybe not these arts or these pieces directly, but in general?
Well, I think because I'm like really exploring experimental photography and alternative practices, the people behind Sustainable Darkroom, Ed Carr, Hannah Fletcher, I think they really influenced me a lot, and I use them as kind of a guidebook, I guess. But yeah, Ed Carr, he does a lot of cyanotype and like experimenting with different mixtures of chemicals, and like trying to look through photography kind of more sustainably. He creates moving images with cyanotypes, so he's physically making these frames, which I find really interesting. I haven't explored it myself, but still like really cool to see and like what you can do with this process.
Yeah. And it's cool to hear about like the sustainability about it, because there is an aspect of photography like where it is very much uses like heavy use of resources, right?
Yeah.
Like films and not even that, but just like chemicals for just like trying to develop your prints, right? So there's a lot that goes into it, right? So
yeah, and they explore a lot of like handmade developers, plant-based developers. It's really cool. It's really interesting. It's kind of eye-opening to see like what you can do on your own, like finding like plants and stuff just in the wild that you can use. It's really cool that like you can do this yourself and not rely on I don't know, like these non-sustainable ways.
Yeah, for sure. And Daren, I'm gonna ask you the final question of the series. This is the last one ever.
Whoa.
But how has OCAD helped you with your art making?
I think it really helped in kind of the thinking, conceptual aspect of it. I feel like these past couple years, I've grown a lot, like conceptually in my work. Like trying to think of, they kind of make you think of like why are you doing, like what is the purpose of these things that you're doing. Like in specific to my work, like why am I choosing these materials? What do they offer? How does install affect it? And like it really makes you think about all the aspects of it, and like all the factors, I guess, in creating pieces and works.
Yeah, and I got the chance to see, like, when I talking about that exhibition I got to see in December, I felt like I was seeing a little bit of that, like you getting that footing for like, okay, this is how my work should be exhibited, and like this is what I should be like doing, so to catch the people's eyes and with this specific work like too. And it was just so cool to see, what you're doing and like how much you're changing the aspect of like how to look at photography. this is biased. This is biased as hell, by the way. But you know, compared to other people that I saw at the show, like no hate, but like you know, like a lot of them were on the walls, like and
Yeah.
you know, that's just like it's engaging. That's not like an issue. But like when I'm looking at the ground, I'm like, you know, trying to look at different angles, and I'm like, I get to circle around it, and I get to see like what it looks like from that angle, and it might complement another tile in a different way, you know, like so it's always interesting to get that different perspective, and you allowed people to kind of get that more interactive process into it. So it was really cool seeing how much, not only, you know, because you know, I remember seeing your photos, and they were still really amazing, but it was just like, you know, photo, like paper on the wall. You know, that's photography. That's just how it is. I feel like I'm knocking photography at the end of your episode, by the way. No hate. I love photography. I took 2 courses and dipped. I'm just, well, that's not a joke. All in all, I'm just trying to say that because you're, you know, formatting in a different way, it's a lot more engaging than, you know, typically how photos are displayed, and that I'm just really excited to see what you do with photography, because like I think you're gonna, even if you did put it on the wall, I think you're gonna try and do something else than just put it on the wall at this point.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like your perspective.
Love to do like random stuff. It's fun.
But no, yeah, and it's fun to see how you play with it, like for sure. So thank you, Daren, so much for showing me the wondrous world of photography and what you're doing, experimental photography specifically. And is there anything you'd like to promote, plug, and put out there for the world to know?
GradX. Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at SVNNVNG. It's my last name without the vowels. That's it. That's where you can find like most of my work. I archive stuff on there.
Yeah. Everything Daren is there, photography wise. Thank you again for coming on the show. I really had a great time, and I hope you did as well.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you for watching this episode, this series. And thanks for joining me. It has been a wonderful time, and I cannot thank you guys so much. I appreciate you as well for coming on for the last episode. I've been wanting to have this, and he's like, I don't know. And now, finally, I was like, hey, what about the last episode? He's like, okay. So I'm really happy that we got to do this. Couldn't have done it with anyone else. But also, thank you guys so much for the years of support, for watching, and I cannot wait to see you guys very, very soon. Take it easy, and I hope you have a good week, day, or maybe a weekend. Bye.